In a small town, hidden between rolling hills and scattered wildflowers, lived a girl named Maya. She was the sort of girl who noticed the smallest things, the way the sunlight bent around the trees, the whisper of the wind before a storm, and the soft rhythm of a clock that ticked not just in time but in secrets. Maya had always been a dreamer. Her friends often teased her, calling her the girl who lived in her own world, but Maya didn't mind. Her world was quieter, more colorful, and in it, she had memories that weren't quite hers. Ever since she was little, Maya had vivid dreams, dreams that sometimes felt more like memories than figments of her imagination. She could recall walking down streets she had never visited, meeting people she had never met, and hearing conversations that never took place. At first, she thought they were just dreams, but as time passed, she began to notice something strange: the dreams were changing. In the beginning, they were isolated, a street corner here, a moment in a cafe there. But over the years, the dreams began to intertwine, becoming something more intricate, like the strands of a vast, invisible web. Faces appeared again and again, only to vanish when she tried to hold on to them. Yet, these faces felt real, like she had known them all her life. One day, as she sat in the town's little bookstore, her fingers tracing the spines of old, dusty books, she felt an odd sense of déjà vu. A particular book on the top shelf caught her eye, a thick leather-bound journal, aged with time. When she opened it, the pages were filled with handwritten notes, but as her eyes scanned the words, she realized with a start, they were her own handwriting. But she had never written this book. It described places she had never visited, events she had never experienced, and yet, each word felt like something she had once known. Maya took the journal home, her heart racing as she turned the pages. She read on, her breath catching as she found an entry dated 10 years into her future. The words on the page described a scene she had never lived, yet the details were so vivid, so real. The journal spoke of a place, an old wooden house by the sea, a person she had never met but whose face felt strangely familiar, and a decision she had yet to make but knew, deep down, she would one day face. It wasn't long before Maya understood the truth. These weren't memories of her current life, they were memories from a life that existed somewhere else. A parallel life. A life where she had made different choices, walked different paths, met different people. She wasn't sure if she was just imagining it or if something deeper was at work, but one thing was clear: the world she had dreamt of, the life she was reading about, was as real as the one she was living. As days passed, Maya became obsessed with the journal. She couldn't put it down. Every night, she'd read more, tracing the threads of a life she had never lived. It felt as if the life in the journal was unfolding in parallel to her own. There were moments when she thought she could almost reach out and touch the people from those pages, as though they were just behind the veil of her own reality. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she saw something that made her breath catch in her chest. There, in the window of the bookstore, was a figure. It was a man, standing just out of the corner of her vision. His face was obscured, but his presence felt familiar. He seemed to be staring at her, as though waiting for her to notice him. She stood up, her heart pounding. But by the time she reached the door, he was gone. Only a few stray leaves fluttered in the breeze where he had stood. Maya couldn't shake the feeling that he had been someone from the life in the journal. A person who had been part of that world, a world where everything was slightly askew but still deeply familiar. Weeks passed, and Maya continued to read the journal. Her dreams became more frequent and more detailed. She was walking down streets she had never seen in her waking life, but in her dreams, they felt like home. In one dream, she stood at the edge of a cliff, watching the sunset with the same man she had seen in the bookstore, his hand resting gently on hers. She knew, without knowing why, that he was someone who had crossed her path in both lives. One evening, as Maya sat at the edge of the town's lake, she saw him again, the same figure from her dreams, the one who had appeared in the bookstore. This time, she didn't wait. She walked toward him, her heart racing with an unfamiliar certainty. "Who are you?" she asked when she reached him. He smiled, a quiet understanding in his eyes. I'm someone you've known, he said softly. Someone you will know. In another life. Maya's mind raced. But I don't understand. How can this be real? The man shook his head gently. Not everything is meant to be understood. Some things simply are. The days that followed felt like a dream, a fading memory she was trying desperately to hold on to. Maya found herself torn between her life here, in this town with its familiar streets and simple comforts, and the life that was waiting for her in the parallel world she had glimpsed in the journal. The choice seemed impossible, 2 lives, 2 paths, and only one Maya. The journal, now well worn from her constant reading, was filled with pages that spoke of the person she had yet to become, the decisions that lay ahead, the moments that still hadn't arrived. But no matter how much she read, the ending was always the same, the 2 worlds were destined to meet. One evening, as she stood at the lake again, the man appeared beside her. He looked at her with a mixture of sorrow and hope. Do you believe in miracles, Maya? He asked. I do, she whispered. But how do I choose between 2 lives? You don't, he replied. You simply live the one you have, and the other will live through you. All lives are intertwined, woven by the choices we make and the paths we take. Maya's heart beat faster as the realization washed over her. She didn't need to choose. She was already living both lives. In one, she was the girl who walked familiar streets, made familiar choices. In the other, she was the woman standing on the edge of the sea, holding the hand of someone she had never met but would one day love. Both lives were hers, and she was the bridge between them. The memories, the choices, the quiet miracles, all of it was hers to keep. Years later, Maya sat by the same lake, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The world seemed quieter now, the air filled with the soft hum of destiny. In her hands, she held the leather-bound journal. She had added her own words to it over time, pages filled with moments, decisions, and quiet miracles. As she looked up, she saw him once more, the man from the parallel world. He stood at the edge of the lake, a soft smile on his face. And in that moment, she understood, the lives we live are never isolated. They are echoes, ripples across time, unfolding together. She walked toward him, feeling the weight of both worlds in her heart. And as the sun set on the lake, Maya knew, somewhere, in another world, she was already walking beside him, her hand in his, ready to live the life that was waiting for them both. The girl who remembered things that never happened, a soft breeze tale about parallel lives, the beauty of quiet miracles, and the journey to understand that the lives we live are never truly separate.